Going live. It says I am live. I wanted to start a moment early because sometimes it kind of glitches. So we'll see if anybody shows up. Hold on a second. Let me adjust this a little bit. Either way, we get started. But let me try to cut off my head here with this. Oh, my head's even more cut off now. Huh. I'm trying to give everything into the image. There we go. That'll work. So good morning to everyone who may watch this now or in the future. I don't do this for a big turnout. Obviously, I never get one. Sometimes there's nobody. Sometimes there's a few. Sometimes there's half a dozen or so that watch later. The point of these presentations for these mystical modalities, schools of thought, is for two things. One is to share the accurate knowledge in a modern world that gets most of it wrong. And so I feel obligated to do that. And also because I'm composing a very large volume of material, and then when the videos will accompany this. So let's begin. Where's my little clicker thing? Oh no. Well, that's not good. That's not good. There it is. There we go. Nobody's there anyway to kind of see. I don't know that if there is. Sometimes it shows no one. Sometimes it shows one or two, and sometimes there's half a dozen or so. So let's get into this. What is ceremonial magic? Here's a wonderful image of a magic circle with all these sacred geometry shapes within it and all these sigils and alphabets, Hebrew alphabet, etc., that represent power that we can tap into. So one of the beautiful things about ceremonial magic is just that it relies a lot on imagery and esoteric and occult symbols and things that are just very seductive and attractive. They're wonderful. So let's begin. You can see here in this photo, and hopefully you can see here in front of my prompter here, that the magical implements, the powers of the Sphinx, to know, to dare, to will, to keep silent. This is the powers of the Sphinx. Very sacred, you could say mantra or creed amongst magi, magicians. We're going to explain some of this. We get into the purpose of occultism and esoteric knowledge and why it's kept somewhat secret to stay silent. Again, let me give you a little tour, because you see in the picture there and now here that my magical implements are on display. These are my actual magical implements that I use in my ceremony and rituals. I have a dagger, the sword that represents the element of air. A candle. Well, this one's, I'm cheating, but it does the job. It's for the element of fire. The pentacle for the element of earth. This is especially meaningful for me because this is from one of my initiation ceremonies. It says April 16th, 2005 on the back, and it says LVX Oasis with the date. And then there's, I don't know what else is there in Latin. Anyway, this is actually a little pentacle that I was given at one of my first initiations at LVX. And then, of course, the element of water. So these are all on hand. And the reason, what I use for the element of air is my magic wand. So we can use the dagger. And this magic wand for me is very special. And I want to share this with you because it's absolutely gorgeous. This was custom made by an artist in the US. the cobra has 3.5 coils around it, as similar to Kundalini. And here in hieroglyphs is my name, my birth date, and much of my personal information. This guy hand makes these things. It was absolutely gorgeous, and it was a gift to me from someone that I love very much. So these are the implements that we use. We're going to get to those in just a moment too. So what qualifies me to share with you about ceremonial magic? Again, I mentioned to you that these were magical implements. I was a third degree initiate in the Ordo Templi Orientis for many years. There's several photos here. Third degree doesn't sound like much. There's like 10 degrees, and it's not a lot, and the initiations that you take are secret. You're kind of sworn to secrecy for life. You're a member for life. And so whether I interact with them or not, I'm still a brother, a frater in the OTO. Profound organization full of lovely people that are very intelligent, very intelligent. There is definitely a gamer, Dungeons and Dragons kind of geek feature to many of the adherents to Thelema that I appreciate very much. Again, they're kind of geeky and knowledgeable, but also some of them are just very cool. And there's a lot of very sexy people there too. So a lot of respect and enjoyed my time very much there. So I became a third degree initiate. Again, it may not sound like much, but out of the 10 degrees, you continue to go on. Again, I don't know what the other ones are because they're done very secret, and you're kind of sworn to secrecy when you take them. You can go online, you can kind of find out some stuff. And so it definitely sustains its reputation as a sex cult. Sex magic is a very integral feature of Thelemic Magick and magical orders. It's not required. I was in a relationship at the time, and she and I went to the meetings and the convention in Washington, D.C. together. We were invited to many fun orgiastic events and get-togethers. We didn't personally participate. That was our choice. No one pressured us. So sex magic is a very integral part of the magical orders systems, but they're not required. Again, there was never any pressure. And having being somebody that studies sex magic and Kundalini and is a Kundalini recipient of a sexual magic rite, it is profound. It's very useful. We're not going to go into much of that today. I just want to make you aware that as a third degree initiate, there are over 10 degrees. And again, they each get more and more secretive and more powerful. And yes, they get a little bit more involved with the sexual energy, and it's very, very potent. So this is what kind of qualifies me. Third degree initiate, was involved with the OTO for many years. Still can be and still somewhat stay in touch. I have a lot of respect for the initiates, the fraters and the sorors, the sisters and brothers that are there. And I love that it was a lifelong initiation. I mean, once you're a member, whether you go or not, and I may not go regularly, we'll get into that towards the end, but again, I have a lot of respect for it. So what is Thelema? Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That is Crowley's saying to sum up what Thelema is. Thelema is Greek or Latin, I'm not sure which, for will. And so what is magic? We have two features that are very important to the underground stream: the Thelema, which means will, and also the 93 current. This is a phrase or a buzzword that initiates will use, that we use very casually. Again, at the convention in DC, when there's 400 or 500 Thelemites and magicians there, it's very casual and comfortable. There's nothing secretive. I'm sorry, I got a glare on my eyeglasses there. The 93 current refers to the true body of knowledge and history that's been handed down through the ages, through literature and or orally, that's accurate and true. Not the ones we're shoveled in schools and churches and garbage, because 90% of that is fake. The religions of the world, three major Western religions, especially the Abrahamic religions, they're founded mostly on fiction. Doesn't mean they're not profound and beautiful and useful, but they're founded mostly on fiction. This isn't some totally secret, sacred, guarded. I mean, it is sacred and guarded to the churches involved, but amongst Thelemites and mystics, it's common knowledge for us. We refer to the true history and body of knowledge regarding religions and spiritual paths as the 93 current. So what is magic? Notice it's spelled with a K. This is an affectation to kind of set it apart so that we don't make any confusion about stage magic and Thelemic ritual and ceremonial magic. So it's just a way of qualifying it. It keeps it simple. Magic is an extension of one's will. Think about that for a moment. An extension of one's will. Your will is your motivation. Your will is your force, your inner and personal power that you can extract, project. And that's what ceremonial magic is about, is projecting as an extension of one's will. Ritual and ceremony. And I saw that I had a typo there and I was not able to go back and fix it, so pardon me. A conversion of abstract concept to matter. Archetypal images, symbols, and objects. What do I mean by conversion of abstract concept to matter? That means that when you have an abstract concept in your mind, then you can make it real. You can make it tangible. You can manifest it in the material realm. That's what ceremonial magic is about. Extension of one's will to manifest. Through ritual and ceremony. Abstract concepts to the world of matter. Archetypal images, symbols, and objects are the abstract. We convert these in magic to make these things real in the material realm. Not real, I don't like that word. So they're real either way, but again, abstract concept where it exists in your mind becomes a physical, tangible thing. To manifest, evoke, and invoke. Let's qualify that. Evoke and invoke, often misunderstood terms. It's rather simple. Evoke is to project out and make something outward, and invoke is to bring something in. When I evoke a spirit, well, then I'm dispatching it. When I'm invoking a spirit, I'm bringing it into me. I'm not crazy about that. I don't want any spirit inside of me. So the ceremony and ritual that we use in ceremonial magic is to evoke and invoke, to get things done, to express our will, to convert abstract concepts into the material world. So we're going over some basic terms here. Esoteric, intended to be understood by a select group, initiates. This isn't secretive in the sense that the secrecy to keep silent, as we say in the Powers of the Sphinx. The motivation of that is not as you find in the conventional religious and Western world. Their motive is to keep it private because they don't want you to know the truth, because most of the stuff they're giving you is fiction. The reason secrecy and silence and things are guarded in Thelema and magic and ceremony and ritual is because we don't want it abused. Ceremonies and rites were usually kept private and secretive, and you had to initiate and qualify for them, because otherwise people would abuse them, because they do have tremendous power, and many people do abuse them. The goal of initiation and the process of initiation is to prepare someone for initiation and to qualify them, because the more you progress, the more you know, and the more you know, the more wise you become. And so that when you get those powers through your levels of initiation as you progress through magic and mysticism, then you won't abuse them. It's very challenging to be able to acquire the skills and the knowledge of any mystical modality. And typically it takes so much effort and dedication that by the time you gain it and acquire it, you respect it and you love it and you wouldn't abuse it. But again, many people do. So that's one of the terms. Esoteric, intended to be understood by a select group of initiates, and occult, which means literally hidden in plain view. We have the stigma of the word occult, that it's always bad. This is the church doing their thing, brainwashing in their own cult way, that this has somehow become a bad word and it's associated with something dark and sinister. Occult literally means hidden in plain view. And this sums up mystical paths. The tarot is a perfect example of that. Just a deck of playing cards. That's all it is. And yet, it's layered with meanings. And it's right there for anybody to see. It's not just coded. It's not coded to make it hard for you to understand it. It's coded because these are concepts that can't be just expressed in regular language. They're best expressed in images. So occult, hidden in plain view, is just that. It's right before you. The 93 current, the underground stream, the knowledge and the truth is all around us. It's hidden in plain view. All the conventional authorities and figures, they conceal it and they try to hide it because they want to guard it, because they want to make you pay for it. Thelemites and mystics, we don't want to make you pay for it. I do these presentations for free. I give this knowledge for free. We want you to qualify for it. We want you to earn it. Because when you do, you respect it, and then you'll appreciate it, and you'll see that it's nothing sinister at all. That is a beautiful, wonderful way of expanding consciousness and getting things done. So let's go into a little bit of what it is. The mystery schools. Got a little Harry Potter there, and some Egyptians on computers. Western versus Eastern. Western is everything that's not Asian. So when it goes from Asia into the Middle East, etc., it's Western. Thelemic Magick, ceremonial magic, and mysticism that we know of mostly is Western philosophies, Western views. So we need to make a distinction between the two. They connect together and they can be used together, but the Western views, they're basically what we're looking at with mystery schools is Western magic, Western mysticism. Everything from the Harry Potter range to the ancient Egyptian magical schools. In those days, when we see these Egyptians on the little computers, it wasn't much of a secret at all. It was part of the regular curriculum. You had history, you had science, you had language, you went to class, and you also had classes in mysticism. But it wasn't really mysticism then, because now mysticism connotates something that is unknown, mysterious. There was common knowledge in the ancient times, because the way nature worked and the way the forces of nature worked and the elements and the way the body worked and the mind was just one of the other four natural forces to be able to tap into, to be able to gain knowledge in and use. There's nothing sinister about it. So we have some historical figures that represent these and basically brought them to light. Akhenaten / Moses, you see there, because that's the same person. That is absolutely the same person. Solomon, King Solomon, fiction or nonfiction, that's a whole other workshop. John Dee and Edward Kelly. Eliphas, I never say his name right. Levi, or Levi, Mather, Aleister Crowley, of course, and Lon Milo Duquette, one of my favorites. He's a wonderful author. I got to meet him at the convention of the OTO in Washington, D.C. years ago, and just a really congenial man. Brilliant author. I mean, what he writes, I love his style. It's funny. It's very educational. You get so much information in a very fun way. So we have some modern mystics, as you can see, from Akhenaten, Moses, to the ancient times, and Solomon, to John Dee and Edward Kelly in the 1600s. I'm not even sure. It could have been 1700s. I think it was 16. Ellis Levi, Mather, Crowley, Lon Milo Duquette into the modern age. There are plenty of mystics and Thelemites and magicians that are there that do the homework. Again, when you read Lon Milo Duquette, this guy's no joke. He makes a lot of jokes, and he's really fun to read. The Chicken Kabbalah, one of my favorites on Kabbalah. But he is so intelligent, such a genius, that he's giving you, as I try to do, some very high-end, very well-articulated, and very intellectual, challenging concepts in ways that become very accessible to common people. And I love that about it. We have in our history these magical orders. The Order of the Golden Dawn is kind of where it started in the modern current age, which Crowley and others formed the Ordo Templi Orientis. The Masons, the builders of the Adytum. These are some mystical orders that exist currently. The Order of the Golden Dawn is no longer in existence, but you wouldn't have any of these without the Order of the Golden Dawn. Their history and how they came about is profound. And I'm sharing this with you again, Eastern versus Western, some of these terms and some of these insights of the people and the schools so that you can look further if you want. That's what this is all about, an introduction in a more advanced way so you can look into it if you want. Let's get into the actual crux of what magic is. It's a magic brew. with ingredients. And the ingredients for magic is astrology and tarot and sacred geometry, numerology, Kabbalah, alchemy, ceremony, ritual, and magical implements. And you. You are the center of it. Now, I'm going to be sharing with you a lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram today. I'll be showing this to you. I was going to do it live, but I had to record it because I couldn't get everything move over there and couldn't do it right here in this small space. So we're going to be watching that. And you're going to see again the magical implements, and the main magical implement within the ceremony and ritual is you. You're the center of it. You're the star. And I don't really mean like star as in the showman. I mean, you're the star. You are the center of it. Everything revolves around that. Again, I share with you my magical implements here. Very essential tools. You can see it says magical implements. Astrology, tarot, sacred geometry. These is a synthesis. Thelemic Magick is a synthesis of all these schools and borrows and uses and utilizes each one of them in profound ways, appreciates them. And what I love about Thelemic and Ceremonial Magic is just the same thing I love about my schools of mysticism and my own projection of it, is that it doesn't isolate one as better than the others. It uses them all together. It shows that all of these branches of mysticism are not just connected, they're the same thing, expressed in a different way. You can say apple in Chinese or Russian or English or German, but still an apple. And what these are different languages for the same concepts. And that makes it beautiful because you can pick what you like, what you're attracted to. Again, defining the definition as magic with that K. Fantasy or fiction. When we're doing ceremony and ritual, is it all in my head? Is what I'm doing, is what I'm evoking and invoking, is it all in my head? Am I making this up? Am I imagining things? Or is it real? Real or imagination? This is one of the first obstacles or challenges that we're met with as we pursue ceremony and ritual, is what I'm seeing and experiencing, what I'm hearing and reading about. Is it real, or are these people just crazy? I mean, they're really like evoking and conjuring spirits and conjuring and changing people the way they think and the way they feel and attracting to them or repelling them or casting spells, invoking spirits, etc. Is this real, or are they just delusional? It makes no difference. I know you want a hard answer. We all do. But the reality is, what is the difference between real fantasy or fiction in our own minds? Reality is what you make it. If you perceive a snake on a road, if you perceive a rope on a pathway to be a snake and you're scared, well, then that's real for you. You find out later it's a rope, but it doesn't matter. For you, it's real, and that matters. It caused a reaction. It has a chain of events that activate because of your perception of it. And that chain of events causes another chain of events, whether it's just a disturbance of the air around me as a recoil from what I think is a snake, nudging my partner, or tripping over a rock, whatever it may be. There's a chain of events that occur with your perception. So fantasy or fiction, it doesn't matter. Your will, your consciousness is the elements that matter. And any way you activate that and put that in motion, energy follows thought. So these are processes and systems for manifesting thought and consciousness to improve it. So whatever you're experiencing, whether it's real or imagined, isn't the point. Don't get stuck on that. If it's real to you, it is real. Significance of original versus ancient in our ceremonies and rituals. Another very important concept. The old school magicians rely purely on the original and ancient methods. The ceremonies and rituals that are written and composed and constructed and engineered by some of the ancients or some of the old turn of the century Thelemites and magicians. Formula versus new, the original ancient formula versus new custom versus hybrid. This is something that each magician has to make a decision for themselves. Do you feel more old school to stay true to and very disciplined and being strict with the original ancient formulas and scripts that evokes with specific names and with specific movements and gestures and symbols? Or do you want to embellish with your own? Whatever you're comfortable with is all that matters. Personally, I like a hybrid. I like to use the ancient original scripts and sigils and texts, but I also like to add things that have personal meaning to me, charge them with my own personal power. And my conclusion for this is because ultimately, ceremonies and rituals were written by someone at some point in time. Some magician somewhere composed them. Now, if it's a ceremony or ritual composed by an actual full bona fide enlightened or elevated consciousness, somebody that has transcended or teleported beyond our material realm, well, then I'm going to stick to their original formula. Whatever they're doing clearly works. But most of the ceremonies and rituals that you'll get access to are composed by very proficient and very established and skilled magicians, and composed like Aleister Crowley, like John Dee, like the others that I mentioned. I'm going back to like Edward Kelly and Lon Milo. But they created these things. They wrote them. And so they still came from a human mind that studied, as I have done throughout my life, mystical paths, symbols. For a while there, when I was in the OTO, I wasn't fluent in it, but I could speak Kabbalah. I could write it. I mean, not Kabbalah, I'm sorry, Hebrew. One of the mystical languages that we use, a profound language. Sanskrit, a very profound, secret, mystical knowledge. It's flawless. But the bottom line is, whether you say apple in Mandarin Chinese or in English, if you show a picture and you have that image in your mind, you can evoke that apple and you can invoke it by bringing it into you. So what matters more is the representation, what they mean to you, because if they're charged with your power, your thought, your affection, then that's what matters. So personally, I like a hybrid of original ancient formula blended with new and custom. Some magicians like nothing but new and custom. They like to be composed their own. I'm not against that. And some magicians are old school and they're steadfast and they think it's completely wrong to add or embellish on an ancient original formula. But again, my personal logic and perspective was that, well, somebody did somewhere. That stuff is not. It is archetypal for sure. And that is the original sense. So the images and words and the things that you use should be archetypal. They should be original in that sense, but they also have to have, especially with magic, with ceremonial magic, have to be a very personal sensation for you, because you have to imbue your will, your feeling, your thought, your consciousness into these incantations and evocations. These words and gestures that you're doing have to have personal meaning to you. And again, for someone old school magician, the personal meaning may be the respect and admiration of these original composers and what they did and what they made, like Crowley himself. But is brilliant. The volumes of material that he's constructed is absolutely genius. He's pretty good for a wacko. But they do save us a lot of time. These existing magicians, the old school magicians, magis that stay with the old formulas. Again, I'm not saying either right or wrong. It's whatever suits you. What I would say is that you shouldn't condemn anybody else's process. Whatever works, works. For me, the hybrid works. I've seen results. And as Lon Milo often points out in much of his work, Lon Milo Duquette, again, if it's real or imagination, what does it matter? Bottom line is, it works. Many of us see the results of our ceremonies and our rituals take place within our consciousness, within our body, and within the world around us. That's all that matters. How you do it is up to you. But again, we stick with the tools. These are very important. Archetypes. All of these schools of mysticism use these archetypes. Astrology, tarot, sacred geometry, numerology, Kabbalah, alchemy, ceremony, ritual, magical implements. They're charged with archetypal power. You can't substitute that. I mean, when I see Tarot of the Care Bears at the store, I'm just like, I guess I'm old school in that sense. I mean, what a useless, insulting, degrading way of commercializing and profiting off something that for many is sacred. It doesn't mean anything. And let me tell you, we're not just about a kids thing. There are people out there that literally take their puppy dog tarot cards totally seriously. They swear by them. And if they work, that's great, but it ain't the puppy card tarot cards that's doing any of the work. It's their conscience, it's their psychic abilities if they have them. But I doubt it. And you think I'm joking about puppy dog tarot cards, but I'm so not. There's some really laughable stuff out there, which I shared in my tarot presentation some time ago. By the way, if anyone is there and has any questions, feel free to please type them in and say hi and all that. I encourage participation. Love questions. It's one thing I miss about doing live presentations. So we've gone over some of that. Now, we're going to go over the LBRP, the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. What is the LBRP? The Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram is exactly what it sounds like. It is lesser, meaning it's small and condensed. The greater ritual is a very long, complicated ceremony. The Lesser Banishing Ritual is just for that, to banish, to clear your space. I personally, for many years, not many, but for some time, for a couple of years, while I was in the OTO, I meditate every morning, always have. And before I meditate, I would get up and I would do my LBRP to clear my space, to clear my mind, to clear my space. My meditation room is a very sacred space, and I want to clear it of all negative energies that might be outside of it, inside of it, my own. So the LBRP represents a clearing of consciousness and personal space. Again, my meditation room, right across the hall here. It's a very sacred space. From the Persian rug on the floor, to the tapestries from Nepal that I got in Nepal hanging on the wall, to the deities of Radha Krishna, to the altar behind the door that's closed off, to my Kirtan meditation stereo that's right there, the books that are on the shelf that are exclusively to my mysticism and spirituality. Not my regular library, but my mystical library is in that room. Everything in that room pertains specifically to my spiritual path and my mystical work. So in that sense, it's permanently banished of the material world. But when I want to, I can invoke and I can perform the LBRP to clear the space. I used to do it daily. Every time I sat down to meditate, I would do the LBRP. So I'm going to show you the LBRP here in just a few minutes. Again, I was going to do it live, but it's too difficult to set up and move things around and get the space for it. So I recorded it last night. And I'm going to show you how simple it is and how wonderful it can be. So simple. So what do we have when we're doing a ritual such as this? A magic circle. We're going to have something that marks the ground on the floor. That's best if you can. Not required. Elements in cardinal directions. A very feng shui. Something on the walls represents the different elements and the cardinal directions, which again you'll see, or I can point out to my meditation room. Every wall has a specific design to it. I don't study feng shui, but I had a feng shui designer come into my office in LA, and she was flattering me and complimenting me on my feng shui setup in my office. And I was like, I don't know anything about feng shui. She goes, you naturally did it. Where the water was, where the wood was, where the wind was, all those things were kind of naturally there. And I'm assuming it's a past life kind of sanskar. So to create our magical atmosphere for our ritual and our ceremony, again, now we have the attire and wand, which you wear. Getting into uniform helps. When I'm in the office, I would wear slacks and shiny shoes, and every once in a while a tie when I was as a counselor. My clients are very informal with me, We have a very informal relationship. They don't care what I wear, but I want them to see me in a certain role. And so that's the uniform, that's the attire, the costume that I wear for that environment. At home, I don't wear that at home with my son when he was young, or even now. With my girlfriend, when I'm going out on a date, whatever it is, I would do appropriate dress for the appropriate occasion, because it affects our mentality, gets us into the game, so to speak, when we put on that uniform. Baseball players need to wear a uniform because it gets their head in the game. So this is also part of the magical implements and the wand and a preparation. This is often overlooked. And I put them in there parenthetically: fast, rest, silence, ojas. Fasting. Depending on the ceremony I might be doing, I'm typically going to fast a couple hours, a couple days. It depends on what it is that I'm trying to charge. I get more power when I fast. Depends on the ceremony. Depends on my objective. Rest, to be fully rested and have a clear consciousness. But there's other times when I don't want to be rested. I want to be sleep deprived, because it creates kind of a loopy, ethereal quality in your mind. You're slightly confused, what we call punchy. You're less intellectual, less egocentric when you're sleep deprived. So that can be used to your advantage. Silence, having some meditative space before you do a ceremony or a ritual. In ojas, your inner energy, to be able to clean it and charge it with power. Again, through diet, whether I'm fasting or not, to be able to be conscious of your inner power and to be able to keep that vibrant. So in a few moments here, I'm going to show you the LBRP, the one that I did for this presentation. But let's talk about what it's like to manifest, what the process is, and how similar it is to when we're doing magic and ceremony to what we're doing in the real world, everyday world. So when I was a contractor years ago, I manifested my work. I took abstract concepts and turned them into physical things, buildings. I was a commercial contractor. So in the beginning was a concept, set of blueprints, an objective, a goal to attain, a rough, crude concept of what it was supposed to be. Here's a two-dimensional layout and image of what it's supposed to be. I'm going to use my imagination to be able to, let me back up a moment, because we have this first image with these two guys talking, because the first thing is I had to market, I had to get a job. I had to find out who had jobs. I had to contact the companies and market and introduce myself. That's part of the first invocation, as I'm drawing things to me. Then comes the abstract. Then comes the blueprints. I'm going on a job walk, where I go to the job walk with other contractors and look at the scope of work and get the measurements and information and look at the blueprints and study them and start to submit a proposal. So I'm preparing for my ceremony. I'm preparing for my manifestation with this process by first collaborating, understanding my goal and my intent was the first stage. And then to be able to build a relationship with what that is supposed to ultimately look like, to visualize what I'm going to be manifesting, to see how it's going to be built, preparing for it, strategizing, orchestrating, to compose my ceremony and ritual. What comes next? Signing of the contract, dedication. All the details, the scope of work, the time range, the composition of a ceremony or ritual needs to be formatted and laid out so you know what it is. Those blueprints have to be turned into something that you can do, not just some, again, abstract concept. It's becoming more and more legit now. It's becoming more and more concrete and tangible. The contract part is where we take that abstract blueprint, which is to turn into a timeline. What's going to be milestones, day 1, day 2, etc. A scope of work, a list of materials, manpower, and this is where we invoke or evoke the demons, spirits, spiritual forces. I might put an ad out on Craigslist or wherever I can, the paper, and acquire my team, my crew. I'd hire guys. Those are my minions that I'm going to dispatch into the world to manifest my will. Ceremonial magic, same kind of thing. So basically, I'm invoking these beings, these minions to me through advertising and marketing to try to build a relationship with employees so I can build a staff. So I put them to work to do my will. We've gone from an abstract concept of getting a job to going on job walks, to interacting with the culture and community, to getting an opportunity to do a proposal with intention, to forming a contract with a scope of work. And now we get the minions and myself beginning to meet and collaborate and perform the work. And eventually, voila, a building is produced. A physical, tangible thing has evolved from a concept, from somebody's idea that they wanted to manifest something to work in. And if it all goes well, the product is I get paid too. I get some money. Everyone gets paid. The currency varies from project to project, from person to person, from ritual to ritual. Whatever it is that you want. We're going to be going into the intention and motivations of the ceremony. We're giving you a real world physical example of what that can be like. Now, in 2019, we had a super blood wolf moon eclipse. It was intense. That rarely, I can't remember what, I look up the date, it's something like once in like 300 years that it happened. Super moon is rare. Blood moon is rare. Wolf moon is rare. Full moon eclipse is rare. We had all four taking place in January 2019. And I tried to find, I did a ritual. I did a ceremony during that. And I took advantage of this cosmic phenomena that was taking place, and that there were millions of people around the earth experiencing and appreciating it at the same time. And I thought, what an opportunity to be able to project and manifest and try to project a consciousness of beauty and peace and love. And I'm not usually kind of corny hippie like that, but I just saw an opportunity. I don't want to manifest anything for me. I thought I saw an opportunity with all these people around the globe sharing this experience in a unified sense. All of us are sharing the same thing. Look at the same thing, enjoying the beauty of it and the magnitude of it and appreciating the divinity of it. And so I did a ritual with a friend of mine as we watched the eclipse, and it was simply to all four directions to evoke, remember, to project outward, not my will, but a cosmic will of peace and love and beauty and appreciation for grander things instead of minutia and material things. So I was simply trying to send what I could, my magician friend and I, and she is pretty talented and profound, to just project this outward as a gift. So there's the intent. So we get back to the LBRP now that we've given you a couple examples. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. The ones you will find online typically take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to do. Today, I'm going to show you how quick it can be done in 2-3 minutes. I think it's maybe a 2-minute video. I'm not sure. Again, we have our magic circle or something on the floor, creating a space. In my sense, in my context, I have my meditation room. It is a section of my house cordoned off for a sacred space. That's where I meditate. That's all I do there. I don't wear shoes in there. I don't eat in there. I don't sleep in there. I don't watch TV in it. All I do in that room is meditate. I keep it pure and simple. And again, when I was in the OTO and doing ceremonial magic regularly, I would get up every morning before my meditation and do the LBRP. A very simple, wonderful ritual to be able to cleanse the space, privatize it, and be able to purify it. You're banishing out all negative energies. So that's all that's left is more pure energies. So let's watch it. Hopefully you can see pretty well from on the video screen. I'll show you what this was when I recorded this last night. And then we're going to replay it. Again, it's maybe a minute or so, maybe two. And then we're going to replay it. And I'm going to break it down for you and show you what I'm saying and why and where. I'm going to show you how simple this can be to do an LBRP. Sorry for the audio.
Ein Sof Hour, Chokmah, Bina, Malkut. Yod He Vahe, to know. Shiva, to dare. Elohim, to will. To keep silent. Surrounds me is the 5-star pentagram. Within its center is the 6-ray star. Hokmah, Bina, Malkut, Jeshiade.
All right. What was that? Maybe a minute or so? Again, I want to share with you how simple this can be. Now, if you study and learn the official old school LBRP, it'll take you a lot longer. I mean, that's what I used to do all the time. I did the old school original LBRP, and I loved it very much. I'm simply sharing with you that it can be any way that you want it and still a very powerful charge to it. I don't want my meditation time to be all about doing a ritual to cleanse the space. I want meditation time to be meditation. And so I'm sharing with you that you can enjoy in any length that you want, any way that you want, a condensed version, a short one. There's no hard, fast rules to this. Again, I'm not disagreeing with the old school magis and the magicians that truly want and feel that you need to use the original formulas. That's okay. Again, to each their own. Let's go over, and I'll show you how my hybrid system functions. And again, you can do your own hybrid version or original versions. There's tons of LBRPs on YouTube that you can see if you want to get their old scripts. So let's look at this again. Now the difference is I'm going to have to pause as we go to be able to. So it's going to be a little challenging. What did I do? There we go.
Ein Sof hour.
Okay. I guess I finally figured out how to pause it while we're doing this. So, Ein Sof hour. I did this in reverse. It should technically Ein is above. It's beyond the celestial. That's beyond heaven. Then there's Ein Sof as we start to manifest, and then Ein Sof hour, which would be more like our third eye. I did this in reverse because I'm having a little spin, a little fun. The bottom line is Ein Sof, and Ein Sof hour are the higher echelons of the Kabbalah's tree of life. They're above the tree of life. This is the God power. This is where the creative essence is. Ein is the creative essence. And as it begins to manifest, it goes through Ein Sof and Ein Sof hour.
Chokmah, Bina, Malkut.
Now you can see there, Chokmah is Hebrew for wisdom. This is on the one side of the tree. We're going through the Sephiroth on the tree of life. You can see I'm touching each shoulder to correspond to the tree of life. Chokmah, wisdom. Bina, understanding. And then Malkuth, which is the Sephiroth of manifestation, the kingdom, which represents earth. So basically, again, I've gone with Ein Sof, and Ein Sof hour, projecting them up. Because I don't want to just create and manifest. I want to project myself up and out. I want spiritual consciousness, which is beyond me. And again, evoking the two Sephiroth on both sides of the tree and Malkuth. And now we're doing the pentagrams. So I've got my wand. I'm doing a 5-star pentagram to the north. And I'm going to do it one in each direction to create my sacred space. So I'm banishing with every pentagram that I'm doing. I'm creating a barrier, a boundary for me to have a sacred space to be within.
Yod He Vahe.
Now, that step, that's again a projection of will, something forceful. Again, real or imagine. The point is, I'm participating in everything that I'm doing physically. And that's what Ceremonial Magic really is about incorporating our tangible, physical, material selves into our cerebral and our psychic selves. We're merging them together. Now, the original LBRPs have very specific names of angels and God and chants, etc. I like my own, Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. That is the Hebrew archetypal name of God. And again, with the hands going out, what we're doing is we're projecting. Now, we're not just doing the pentagrams to create a sacred space. Now, we're banishing, using the name and power of God or angels to actually banish out negative energies and toxicity, to take it out of that space. We're keeping them at bay and pushing them out. So the gesture is very important. You say true no, one of the powers of the Sphinx.
Shiva.
Now again, you see that Shiva is the Lord of Destruction. When he opens his third eye, the entire universe dissolves and evaporates. So for me, Shiva is very important in my LBRP because he is the destroyer. There is no greater deity to evoke, as far as I'm concerned, than Shiva, who is the destroyer. So if I want to banish and destroy bad energies, well, then he's the one to evoke. Now, again, you see the step forward and the pushing of the hands. We're linking our physical motions and gestures and movements with our mindset to basically strengthen both, to enhance them both. We want to give it more meaning. Again, the uniform, the gestures, the codes, the words, everything has its particular place to be able to charge the ceremony and the experience with something that's more manifesting and personal. We want to have ourselves involved. Remember what it's about manifesting, projecting our will. So projecting, that's what that step is for. You don't have a gentle approach in ceremonial magic because you don't want to ask spirits for anything. You want to tell them what to do, because if you ask them, they will run ripshod over you. They will do all kinds of crazy stuff. They're tricksters and pranksters.
True.
And the powers of the Sphinx, true. So this, again, my own embellishment. I like to add that in. Another pentagram.
Elohim.
Another Hebrew name of God. Means more like Lord. Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is the name of God, the hidden name of God. Now, you may have noticed that I'm using Hebrew on one direction, then I use Sanskrit and a Hindu God to the other. Now I'm back to Hebrew. Because for me, I'm blending Eastern and Western. I am Eastern. I'm a meditator. I'm a bhakti yogi. So for me, I have more affiliation and association, more affection and more personal relationship with the Eastern gods. All gods are one. There's just one. They all express in different ways. So whether you're using Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh or Elohim or Shiva, again, for me, I'm charging my circle. I'm charging my space. I'm banishing out the bad energies and I'm bringing in the good ones, and I'm charging it. Archetypal names. I'm not just making stuff up. I'm not just making up some random name. I'm using names that I know have power, have stood the test of time, and that are coded with certain meanings.
To will.
To will. The power of the Sphinx.
Keep silent.
And now we're getting back to east. So I've gone west, east, west, east. I've gone in all four cardinal directions with Western gods of name of God, and now the Om, the primordial sound of creation. For me personally, what better to close my circle with? And you notice that's the only one that I really chanted. I'm evoking and invoking the primordial sound. And then I finish with to be silent, the last power of the Sphinx. Now, I said it out loud for your benefit, but normally on my own, I would not say it. I would just make the motion. Because to be silent, you wouldn't actually say it. With this final gesture, for me, I'm invoking and I'm projecting a sense of silence to the sacred, the sanctity of the space. In pranayama, for example, the inhale and exhale that you're doing to gain the power of a pranayama, whether it's the fire breath, whether it's the alternate nostril breathing, whatever it may be, it's the in-between, it's the pause, the retention that has all the power in it. When you exhale, you pause and you retain. That's when things start churning and stirring. So the powers of the Sphinx, the silence, is exactly that. It's going to charge it with non-substance.
Surrounds me is the 5-star pentagram. Within its center is the 6-ray star. Hokma, Ina, Malkut, Jeshiade.
Real simple. What surrounds me is the 5-star pentagram, and within it stands the 6-ray star. That's me, the magician, which I told you, which is the most important element other than your magic wand. All those things are important elements to have to manifest and to be able to focus your will and give it something tangible to direct it to. But you're the center of it. And so I'm also acknowledging that I am at the center. And that is very traditional for the LBRP. They all end that way. And then I finish with Jai Shri Radhe. I'm a Radha Krishna devotee. Again, I use the Eastern names and the Western names. But for me, Jai Shri Radhe is the ultimate greeting and the ultimate goodbye. It is the conclusion. It is the most sacred name of God for me in my tradition. And so that's what I use. So this is an example, giving you the sample. Let me show you. No, go to the next one. There we go. So that's going to be a little bit tight to see. So this is the script that I use for this LBRP. And this is something that if you wanted to later on, you could come back and you could kind of take a look at it and you could copy it and paste it if you wanted to. Again, just even a sample of what it's like to do a hybrid version of an LBRP, a banishing ritual to create a sacred space. And again, I've been hired, I've been contracted by people that I've met over the years that wanted me to come and do a banishing ritual, greater banishing rituals, not just lesser ones, to banish what they thought were bad spirits in their home, bad mojo, all kinds of things. I will not, and I would never, and I've rejected any offers to do banishing rituals to people or things that they thought were annoying that were enemies. I'm not getting involved with that. But as far as cleaning a space, again, when I sit with people, I will interview with them. Same as I do as a counselor. I'll interview with them, and through the interview, I'll start to understand the language and the perception that they have about whatever they're experiencing, to be able to construct and compose the right words and the right gestures for their space, not for mine. Mine won't work on them, in my opinion. I think they need something that's more customized for them. So I can either teach them how to do it, or, as many have done, they've hired me to do it. But we collaborate to be able to compose the script, the gestures, and the motions. But certain elements stay true all the time. The pentagram is a profound archetypal symbol. So this is the LBRP. I'm not changing it to different symbols. Personally, I have an 11-point star on my hand, on my arm. That is personal reference to me. But that's a very complicated symbol to do, and I'm not doing that. It's too much. So again, here's a copy of the script as I said it, excuse me, in the ritual. You can come back and look at that if you like. So what is the purpose? We're going to start to sum up here. Manifesting one's will, develop personal power, and expand consciousness. This is the purpose of Thelema and ceremonial magic and ritual and ceremony. To manifest one's will, to develop personal power, and expand consciousness. That's its goal. Understand what its intent is. Because without intention, you have no power. You have no efficacy in what you're doing. Manifesting one's will, that's a gray area. Again, I give you an example. When I did that during the full month, supermoon, blood, wolf moon eclipse, that my manifesting my will was my will towards a gift to humanity. I didn't want anything for me. I'm personally against that. Developing personal power. The point of ceremonial magic and getting into Thelema and mystical ceremony is to gain your strength, to be able to create and to be able to build a relationship with your inner power, your personal power, and be able to manifest it. Confidence, you could say. There's so many different ways to look at that, and it's very important. Varies from person to person. Personally, I have a huge will and always have. I'm not being euphemistic there. That was kind of a bad way. Okay, I have a very strong Manipura chakra. Very, almost twice the size as normal and a little bit off to the left. I'm sorry, off to my right. So I have a very strong will. This is what I mean by developing personal power. So for me, using ceremonial magic and some of the mystical paths that I use is a way to temper that. I don't want my will to be too enlarged. I want to practice path of humility. So again, and also to expand consciousness, to improve and expand our awareness of ourselves and the universe we live in, so that we can get beyond ourselves. This is the purpose of ceremonial magic. Its limitations. It has several. Very complicated. It takes a lot of studying. What I'm giving you today, what I give you in all my presentations, I've spent a lifetime of studying mystical modalities. I'm a master at most of them. It's taken me a lifetime of studying volumes and volumes of materials. If I parade the books in front of you from my personal library, it's staggering. Not just what they are, but how, the Thelemic book that Crowley wrote is as thick as my arm. It's huge. It takes a lot of study. So it's very complicated. And Thelemites in ceremony make it this way, in my view, intentional. They do it in one way to show off. I got to call it as it is. They do it partly because they love it. I do too. That they are attracted to and enthused by the intellectual, cerebral feature of it. That is not everybody and anybody can follow it, understand it, or do it. And that's attractive. But similarly, but in addition to that, they also do it because out of a sense of pride. They like to be involved with something that nobody else can really follow, nobody else can easily follow. It weeds them out. And I think that has some value to it, but at the same time, I personally find it less valuable because I don't want people to be unable to access and use these things. And that's why I do these presentations. I'm trying to make them useful and usable by showing LBRP that anybody can do, rather than studying these phrases and these languages and these symbols and getting to know them. Again, you saw that one. Who can understand that? This is the kind of thing we're dealing with ceremonial magic. So it can be very complicated. It takes a lot of work and dedication to be able to use it. That's one limitation. Still a part of the material phenomena. Make no mistake about it. Ceremonial magic is not spiritual. It's part of the material phenomena. When I go backpacking into the high Sierras, I'm up at a higher elevation, but I'm still down on Earth. When you're skydiving, when you're up in an airplane and they got to put oxygen in the plane, well, that's because the air is thin, but you're still on the Earth. You're still part of it. You're up high. So ceremonial magic and all mystical paths and psychic phenomena, it's still part of the material phenomena, just a higher end of it. Not even higher, I don't like that connotation. It's a more subtle level and dimension of reality, more subtle. It gets closer to the spiritual dimension, but it ain't the spiritual dimension. Spiritual dimension is the spiritual divine dimension, and it's just one. So you could look at it as a doorway or a gateway or an access to be able to view the spiritual dimension, but you're not actually doing that. You're still involved with and doing practices in the material phenomena, not the spiritual phenomena. Make sure you understand that. So that's one of its limitations for me, which is why I don't really use it too much. I'm trying to become a spiritual being and cease being a material being. I want to exit life's in rebirths, reincarnation. I want to exit and become purely spiritual. Thelema and ceremonial magic does not really do that. It's a stepping stone. It's a way, it's a means to an end, but it's not the end itself. It has karmic consequences. Whenever you involve yourself with and interact with material phenomena, whether it's pursuit of money and material possessions, sex, love, drugs, whatever. And I'm not talking about the bad things. Love, family, these are still material relationships. So that means that you're creating material karmas that bind you. The only way, so anytime, anything you're involved with in material phenomena is going to create material karmas. We're going to bind you to the material phenomena. You have to be very careful because your intent is everything. If you don't have the right intent, then your karmic bondage can be very negative. If it's very selfish, then you're going to get selfish karmas. We want to transcend beyond that. Ceremonial magic and Thelema doesn't, in my view, afford a lot of that. It's very self-centered. It's a very profound way to expand your consciousness. It's a very profound way to experiment and experience some of the more mystical dimensions of reality. But it's all about you. You're the center of that magic circle. You're the center of the ceremony. And I think that's profound. But personally, I'm trying to expand beyond me to the Godhead. So it has karmic consequence by bonding you to material karmas. Again, I'm not trying to dish dirt on it. I'm simply pointing out for what it is. Make your choices. It does not liberate. Higher attainment is deification. So in other words, swarg in Sanskrit. Highest attainment is deification. So the farthest you can go with Thelema and ceremonial magic is to become deified. In other words, you can become some type of demigod. That's the highest you can go. That may sound profound. You're in the luxury house on the beach. You got it out. You've got minions. You are a demigod. You're a sub-god, a deity. And you're in a heavenly dimension. That's the highest you can go. But you still got to come back to earth. When that life is over, which could be thousands of years of pleasure and joy, it still isn't perfect and it still isn't permanent. These are things that we need to know as we experiment with and explore these phenomena. So there are the purpose, and it's a very useful, powerful modality and beautiful. It also has limitations. You should understand what those are. Ceremonial magic is a profound and exciting way of thinking and way of practice. It's alluring, it's seductive, it's sexy, it's stimulating. It works on so many different levels that just make it really fun and profound. And you will, well assured, you will experience some very profound, very strange mystical things when you do a lot of ceremonial magic. Not just some of the people, which are a little weird too, but you will activate levels of consciousness and thought that are dormant. Just be careful. You want to continuously make sure that you're activating levels of consciousness that are more humanity-based or more spiritually based rather than self-based. So I was a third degree initiate in the OTO, and I was for several years, and I was involved with them for a couple of years. I had a really great time. I mentioned some of this. So why did I stop? Why don't I continue with the Thelemites and the magical mystical orders, which I enjoyed a lot and I respect a lot? What caused that shift? I was given some literature that was written by a saint, a Rosic saint. And I didn't know what a Rosic saint was. And as I read this, it all started to come together. It started to teleport, transcend me well beyond these material Western mystical paths to something far more profound, far easier, far more magical. And so for me personally, I was drawn to it, and to these two individuals that were enlightened personalities that manifested and created these schools of thought. My point is that it's never too late to change paths, and I'm not telling you which one to take. I'm always emphasizing that if you want to be an alchemist, which I am, certified, literally certified alchemist, master alchemist, then pursue with all your heart. But if something better comes along, whether it's a new job, a new mate, a new interest, a new path, then take it. It's never too late. Whichever one works for you, that you put all of your heart into, your whole soul, that's the one you should follow. And I got to tell you, most Thelemites, they're very passionate. They're into this. And I don't care if you're a monk in Mount Arno in Italy, or a yogi in a cave in Nepal, in the Himalayas. Whatever you apply all your heart to, whatever you're going to follow, put all your heart into it. I'm putting all of my heart and all of my soul and all my spirit into my liberation and enlightenment spiritually. I use a bit of a hybridized system all the way around. I appreciate and adore them all. But in my heart, I follow one path. So whichever one you're going to choose and be adhered to, adhere to that. Well, thank you for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed this. I think what the next topic is going to be will be revealed soon. And I enjoyed presenting to you. Thank you. Jai Shri Radhe.